Yoda Data Vault is my favorite deck of all time in Star Wars Unlimited. And today, I wanted to tell you the story of how Yoda specifically helped grow my YouTube channel, why this deck is so near and dear to my heart, and how I set out to have one final ride with my favorite deck and eventually won one of Set 6's largest PQs. This is Yoda Data Vault, One Final Ride.
Coming out of my cage and I've been doing just fine. Gotta be down because I want it all. It started out with a kiss, how did it end up like this? It was only a kiss, it was only a kiss. Now I'm falling asleep and she's calling a cab while he's having a smoke and she's taking a drag. Now they're going to bed and my stomach is sick and it's all in my head, but she's touching his chest. Now he takes off her dress. Now let me go. And I just can't look, it's killing me and taking control. Jealousy turning saints into the sea, swimming through sick lullabies, choking on your alibis. But it's just the price I pay. Destiny is calling me. Open up my eager eyes, 'cause I missed the bright side. I'm coming out of my cage and I've been doing just fine. Gotta be down because I want it all. It started out with a kiss, how did it end up like this? It was only a kiss, it was only a kiss. Now I'm falling asleep and she's calling a cab while he's having a smoke and she's taking a drag. Now they're going to bed and my stomach is sick and it's all in my head, but she's touching his chest. Now he takes off her dress. Now let me go.
So let's start off with the PQ run itself. First match was against a Boba Fett Green 30, which I won 2-0. This was my opponent's first PQ. They actually played the deck pretty well, and I think both games came down to like 1 or 2 HP on my base. He was a great guy, and I had a really great time playing with him. Match 2 was a P at red, in which I won 2-1. This game was actually pretty rough. I won round 1 pretty easily. They kind of drew dead. They were playing all their droids that they wanted to get out with Invisible Hand. Game 2 did not go so well for me. I did bring in the hyperspace disasters, did not see any of them, but in game 3, I did see one, and at one point, he went Ruthless Raider, and had like a Devastator. I cleared it. He then played Invisible Hand. I could then use Yoda to put a card on top of my deck. I think I put a resupply carrier there. Flipped Yoda, killed the Invisible Hand, killed the droid that he played with it. So I completely cleared his board in one go. It was absolutely disgusting, and that won me game 3. My third match was against Hantu ECL. I lost 2-1. Hantu ECL does kind of break my brain a little, and my opponents can't high roll and win. If they draw their Crucible, it's like almost a GG sometimes. And he did play extremely well. I don't want to like take anything from him. I lost game 1 due to a Sabine's Masterpiece swinging for 16, and game 2 I took it out, had some Sentinels up the curve. Game 3, they pivoted heavily to space, and I just didn't have any answers. So they won game 3, and that was my only loss the entire PQ. My fourth match was Padme TTown, in which I won 2-0. This felt like a slower, different pitch of Sabe Red Space Aggro. It still was aggressive, but played a couple more cards like Furtive Handmaiden that allowed her to get like more pings off, but ultimately the anti-space package that I run let me easily maneuver this match, and Padme coming out one turn behind Sabe is a big deal in this match. My fifth match was a Cad Bane TTown, in which I won 2-0. Now, I've practiced this match a lot, and it felt like my opponent didn't get the draws. Game 1 was a standard game, but game 2 was wild. Their first 2 turns were Death Star Stormtrooper into Hotshot Blaster to 5 to my base, which means like 1 creature, 1 spell, took out 5 resources worth of cards and 2 of their whole plays. It was disgusting. I had a big board. They couldn't do anything about it. Match 6 was the Chancellor Palpatine Data Vault. That went draw, but not an ID. That went to time. That game is shown in the end, but it was just, I won game 1, he won game 2, and like he beat me on the very last action phase of game 2 to basically tie it up. And that means I had to win match 7 in order to get into the top 8. And that was a Gar Saxon yellow deck in which I decided, hey, I've got Sentinels, I have Restore, you don't, I'm going to try and race you and see who wins. And I took that game. In the quarterfinals, I played a Han 1 yellow, and since I was the 8th seed, I played the number 1 seed. So this Han 1 yellow was the number 1 seed. And first game, I was actually close to dying, but eventually Home 1 healed like 8 damage from my base, which put me out of the critical range. In game 2, I had an efficient turn 1 and turn 2 plays, while they played Bodhi Rook, and since I don't keep any events, he didn't get any value out of them. And then I blue leadered into something like an Ahsoka, which helped me get ahead on board, and then I just stayed ahead. It was pretty disgusting. In the semifinals, this is probably, no joke, the best game I have ever played of Star Wars Unlimited. I felt like I had all the answers, and if you're going to watch one Spotlight game, watch the Han 2 ECL Spotlight game for the semifinals. I thought it was awesome. This was against one of the Secret members. Game 1, I played pretty well. I kept to my game plan. Game 2, he turned 3 to Queen Amidala on 4 resources, and I just couldn't catch up. And then game 3 was just insane. I absolutely loved this matchup. This game was awesome. Highly recommend you watch it. And the finals was Cade Tarkentown, which I won 2-1. These were just tough matches, but I will admit my opponent did miss lethal in the first game. I should never have won the first game. Game 2, I think I should have won game 2, but I lost game 2. So if you switch those 2 games around, it should have like come out the way that it folded out. And then I won game 3 pretty easily. Awesome games. Highly recommend you watch them. If you don't, no hard feelings. But that was the ride that I had to get to my first championship. And this was also my first top 8 and my first win. So I'm extremely happy about that. So if you want to stick around for the deck tech, and if you want to stick around for the games, please feel free to skip ahead to whatever you would like to see. Where to start, like with all decks, is the turn 1 plays, because almost every single deck really needs to decide what are they going to start off with and why. And a lot of thought was actually put into the turn 1 plays that go into this deck. We currently run 11 turn 1 plays, because in Data Vault, on average, that gives us a 92% chance of seeing any turn 1 play in at least one hand if we mulligan, which is good enough for me. I thought that was a good break point to hit. It could be completely up to you. If you want to go up to 12 turn 1 plays, you get a 94% chance of that happening. And if you go down to 10 turn 1 plays, you only have an 89% chance, which that felt a little low to me. That's how we hit the number that we're at. But what actual turn 1 plays are we running? Well, we start off with 2 Battlefield Marines. Why? Well, the 3/3 stat line is just really good. It can kill gonk droids if you're on the play and not on the draw. And importantly, if we're playing into Han 2 blue and they dropped an Ogdo Bogdo on us as their first turn play, Battlefield Marine is like one of our only options that's able to actually kill it. If you play any of your 2/4s or even like 2/5, because we're going to talk about Gungi soon, Ogdo Bogdo can just eat it, gobble it up, heal, and then we're in a problem. They took our first turn play for essentially free, and they still have a 5-drop menacing the board. It's almost an auto loss there. So Battlefield Marines are really strong into Han 2 blue, and that's why we run them. We also run 3 Gungis. Why do we run Gungis? Well, this actually was initially in the list, especially when this was the Force version last set, but now we run it for a completely different reason. Back then, we wanted to run it for the Force trait. Now we want to run him for the 5 HP, because specifically Cad Bane Tarkentown and Sabe Tarkentown are all the rage. A lot of times, especially in Cad, I'm really going to focus on Cad Bane Tarkentown right now. What they'll do is they'll play an underrun unit, they'll ping your unit, and then they Tarkentown it. You've lost your first turn play. Typically, they've played 2 1-drops, so now they have 2 units on the board, you have nothing, and that's essentially how they win. Now you're behind. If you try and Sentinel up, they play a 4-LOM, you don't have another unit to spread the ping, so it typically can go through any Sentinel that's played on the turn that it comes out, especially Typho. So we want to avoid that. What's one of the best ways to avoid that? Play something with 5 health. If it gets pinged, Tarkentown can only deal 3 damage, leaving Gungi alive. And honestly, it's not really worth wasting the Tarkentown on it to then ping it with a second ping. So what Gungi can do, you play him, he gets pinged. You claim, Next turn, you trade into ideally a 2-attack unit that Cad Bane has played. That way, they can't just play another Underworld unit and ping the last HP off him. If they decide to Tarkin Town him, they've wasted a ping, a Tarkin Town, and you gobbled up one of their first turn plays. I think we'll take that any day of the week. It's kind of like Gungi killed something and also dealt 5 damage, which is like the best case for Gungi to ever do. Let's say that they don't decide to Tarkin Town Gungi. Well, then you can just play your 3-drop. If you play something like Obi-Wan Kenobi, which we'll get to, which is a 3/5, well, now you have a, like a 2/4 and a 3/5 on the board, which at that point, they're just kind of screwed. It's also a Sentinel, so it's very hard to get through, and you can start playing the board, and that completely ruins their game plan. So Gungi was brought in specifically because of the rides of Cad Bane Tarkin Town, and I actually really like him in the deck. Next, we run 3 Phoenix Squadron A-Wings. Why we run these? We want some form of space presence, and you're going to find out throughout the rest of this deck tech. I really dislike space aggro decks, and I really need something to fight against them. But that comes down to one question. Why are we running Phoenix Squadron A-Wing over Restored Arcwing? Because I know that's kind of a question some people ask. It's mainly for the 3-attack. Yes, Restored Arcwing is a 2/3. It can probably trade into 2 things, where this sometimes can only trade into 1, and Restored Arc has the Restore. So why do we go with this? Well, there's 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is Cartel Turncoat. A lot of the yellow hero space aggro decks are running Cartel Turncoats, which are 2/3s, and Restored Arc cannot trade into a 2/3. So it's kind of like, what are we even doing at that point? The other problem is, in the Mirror or other green hero decks, if your opponent plays a blue leader into your Restored Arc, well, they've taken away your first turn play, they've kept their turn 2 play because it didn't trade, and they still have their turn 1 play. So they have 2 units, and you've lost your unit, and it sets you way behind, and we don't really want to do that. The other issue is, against Han 2 ECL, we really want to get rid of Sabine's Masterpiece, and Phoenix Squadron A-Wing can lock out a Sabine's Masterpiece play. So that's why we're running Phoenix Squadron A-Wing. It's specifically for the 3-attack. Lastly, I'm going to bundle these 2 units together, and that's Yaddle and Mina. I played 2 Yaddles and 1 Mina. I actually treat them pretty much the same as 2/4 Restore 1 with potential upside. Yaddle's upside is she can turn on Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I have right here, and we're going to get to him next, is a 3/5 Sentinel, but if you play the Force unit, this phase, he gets Sentinel again. So if you play Obi-Wan Kenobi, sometimes you kind of have to play a Yaddle behind him on the next turn to give him Sentinel again. So she turns on Obi-Wan Sentinel, and also, since we're playing a bunch of Jedis with Obi-Wan Kenobi, Gungi, our leader Yoda, she can actually have like Restore 2 or Restore 3 sometimes. That's where she gets the benefit. Where Mina gets the benefit is she's also a 2/4 Restore 1, but she has the When Defeated ability. You can reveal a green and a white to draw a card. So sometimes to draw a card better, sometimes the extra Restore and the ability to turn on Obi-Wan is better. Personally, I felt like I had a better game into Control, where Mina is better, and into aggro, where Yaddle is better. I actually don't like that, and I feel like that is more of like a toss-up of who draws the better cards. So I'd opted to go with 2 Yaddle, 1 Mina. You could go 2 Mina, 1 Yaddle. You could completely cut one and leave the other in. I wanted a mix of both, so that's how I got to the turn 1 plays that I did. So now, let's talk about the ramp package, because Lord knows we need it. We've got a 7-drop leader, and we want to get Yoda out as early as possible, because he does a lot of work for us, and he's kind of our main catch-up mechanic. So we run 3 Resupply, which is a no-brainer. It is one of the best cards, if not the best card in the game. I'm actually working on a video that's going to talk about that. There's not much to say. 3 cost, turn 2, ramp. So you go turn 1 play, turn 2 Resupply, turn 2 5-drop, which in this deck typically means either, if you're lucky, you can You're My Only Hope out a 7-drop, or you just hard cast Queen Amidala. Not much an opponent can do for you there. The other kind of mainstay ramp that's really good in this deck is we run 3 Resupply Carriers. This is a 6-cost 4/5 shipped with the When Played ability. You may put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. Oftentimes, we can manipulate that top card to be like a waste card that we don't want to play anyway, that we would just put on the bottom of our deck. So that's fine. But the other thing with Resupply Carrier, there's 2 other things that is really good. 1, it comes out on 6. So if you got mana screwed the whole game, you've never ramped, and you draw a Resupply Carrier at any turn before Yoda flips, you just play Resupply Carrier, put the top card of your deck as a resource, and now you effectively can play Yoda as a 6-flip leader. Yes, you don't get to go Yoda flip into 7-drop, which is like pretty good. It's what we really like to do. but sometimes you have to catch up and Resupply Carrier can get that done. The other thing that Resupply Carrier can do that's actually pretty good in this deck, you can You're My Only Hope it on 4 resources. So if you've played a 3-drop and it's gonna die, or you think it's gonna die, or you have like a kind of a not efficient trade, but you can still do it anyway, and you have Resupply Carrier and You're My Only Hope in hand, well, you just trade whatever you have on board, put Resupply Carrier on top, and then ramp with it. So now you kind of have a 4-5 and you ramp. You know, if you think about it a little bit, that's kind of like what Sham wants to do, but we have to do it with extra steps. But again, we still like that, and it's still pretty good. Now that you're ahead, typically you do that on 4 resources. So then you go Resupply Carrier, skip the 5 resource turn, go straight to 6. If you have another ramp card like Resupply or a second Resupply Carrier, it's a way to double ramp into Yoda. That's one reason why I really like Resupply Carrier. Now, the other thing is we are a ramp deck, so we're trying to get a little bit more ramp wherever we can. So we play 2 Spark of Hopes. They're not my favorite card, but if you get lucky, you can double ramp on 5 resources by killing off a unit on board, sparking it, and then resupplying it. And that's if you're like really, really lucky. I've seen that happen a couple times. But you can go straight from 5 to 7, which oftentimes your opponent doesn't really plan around. The other thing about Spark of Hopes, the reason why we run 2, if you think about it, if you can treat it exactly the same as Resupply, if you can like reliably kill your turn 1 play or turn 2 play by like the 4 resource turn, it gives you essentially a 25% extra chance of hitting like a pre-6 drop resupply, and that's pretty good. It's what we really want to do. It facilitates our game plan, so we use it. I do tend to sideboard out Spark of Hopes a lot, especially into like some aggressive matchups or some control matchups. It's almost the first card that I cut most times because I'm just like, do I really need to aggro ramp, like super ramp in this matchup, or do I have other cards that can help me just play the board better that strategically target this matchup? I like it. We only run 2. They're pretty good in the deck. So next up is the other half of the resupply plan. We're trying to resupply. We're trying to get later in the game. What's a way to help get later in the game? Well, the way to get later in the game is to play Sentinel units. Well, what Sentinel units do we play? We run 3 Obi-Wan Kenobis. Why? Turn 2, 3-5, already good stat line. And the turn it comes out, it's a Sentinel, so it can either shield like 3 or 4 damage. And if your opponent does trade into it, your turn 1 play can actually probably efficiently kill that unit and survive, giving you 2 units on board. 5 health is big. It can't be pinged Tarkin Town if you already played a Gungi out or something like that. I really like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Sometimes you Kelleran Beck him out as a 3-5 to kind of get lucky if you're really in a bad spot. It's another Sentinel to just drop to pause all the damage for a turn. Really powerful. Really strong. Another reason why we're playing Yaddle, also a bonus to Gungi, is to help turn on his Sentinel more reliably. The other Sentinel that we run is Village Protectors. We run 3 Village Protectors, and the amount of times I've cast a Village Protector and my opponent has just lost all the life in their eyes is more than once. Reason being, it's a 2/2 for 3 shielded Sentinel. It doesn't deal a lot of attack, but it doesn't need to. It often can take up to like 5 resources for your opponent to deal with. And in the grand scheme of the game, if we're playing more mana efficiently than our opponents, typically that's a winning strategy. So if we can play a 3-drop that requires our opponent to use like 5 resources worth of stuff to defeat it, we're ahead on board right there. And that's what we really like. Another thing that you can do with Village Protectors to really watch the life leave your opponent's eyes, you play Village Protectors. If you have a second one in hand, don't cast it early. Wait till they finally get through your Village Protectors and then drop the second one. And it's like, oh my God, we just got through the first one and now we have to go through this again. It really puts them behind. It lets you actually take a step back and maybe develop a stronger threat behind the Village Protectors. So when they finally get through it, now you have the good board presence and the good trades available to you. And sometimes it can delay a whole turn and a half, and that's enough to get you your Yoda flip before any real big damage is done. So Village Protectors, super strong, super efficient in the deck. Another really good Sentinel that we run is obviously a 3 of Captain Typho. The reason that we run Captain Typhos, 4/5 Sentinel unit, they often let us heal 1 or 2 if they get targeted. They're almost kill on sights. A lot of times people try and kill them with events, but against aggro decks, if they don't have an efficient way of getting rid of Typho, he's kind of like a heal 6 or 7 because he blocks 5 and heals 1 or 2. Super strong. Oftentimes he gets waylaid. Yeah, again, we just talked about being mana efficient. We played a 4-drop. They played a 3-drop, but if that completely stopped them from playing to the board at all, they just essentially have their turn 1 and turn 2 plays. We have our turn 1 and turn 2 plays. Our better units are coming. So yeah, they got rid of Typho for a turn. They're going to hit us with a lot of damage, but they didn't play the board. They didn't increase the pressure. That's a winning strategy for us. So these are our ground Sentinels, and I kind of accidentally stacked them up. We have Village Protectors, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Captain Typho. The last one, now I could include this in the next section. I decided to include it here because it is a Sentinel unit, and that is 3 Bright Hopes. Now, I know typically Yoda decks only run 2 Bright Hopes. I like the third because, once again, I can't stand space aggro decks. It's a 4-cost 2/6 Sentinel with the when played ability. You may bounce a ground unit to your hand. If you do, draw a card. Now, there's a couple sneaky things about these Bright Hopes that make them particularly good, not even just space aggro matches. So, obviously, it's good because you drop it in a 2/6, it can't be capture shuttled, and sometimes it can gobble up 1 or 2 turn 1 plays. You know, killing 2 units for the price of 1 unit is good. It's not mana efficient necessarily, but it is good. But one thing that it could do is if your opponent has a pump, oftentimes they'll like surprise strike a unit into this just to kill it with 1 unit. But guess what? They've wasted a pump. They've lost a little bit of their reach. It's actually something that's super valuable to us. Yeah, if it gets killed, they do pump a little bit of damage. It is a little slow, but I still like it in that matchup. The other thing about Bright Hope that's really good into control matches specifically is control decks now are playing Condemn, and they're also playing Entrenched. I played a match that you'll see later that ran 5 of these upgrades. Well, what does Bright Hope do? Bright Hope allows you to play it, bounce that ground unit that has a Condemn or an Entrench on it back to your hand, getting rid of the upgrade, giving you the unit back to play it back as a threat later on, but you also draw a card. But guess what? A unit also left play. And since Yoda gets to use his Scry ability, you kind of get to see 2 cards in your deck. So he's kind of like a draw 2. A 4-cost 2/6, return a unit to your hand, draw 2, especially if it has something like a bad upgrade on it. Really strong, really good to do in a control matchup. I really, really like Bright Hope. It's not just for aggro matches. So that's why I run 3. Yes, it's mainly for the space aggro, but there's also a little bit of other things you can do with it that make it a little bit better than just a space aggro bomb. So next up, we just talked a lot about Space Hate. Well, how about we actually go in to the full Space Hate package? And it's pretty simple and probably a little bit self-explanatory. We run 3 Blue Leaders. Why? Blue Leader, one of the most broken cards in the set. 3-cost 3/3 Ambush with the when played ability. You may pay 2 extra resources, give it 2 experience tokens, and ambush it on the ground. So it's either a 3/3 Space Ambush or a 5/5 Ground Ambush with effectively no restriction, which is unheard of. And again, in another video, I'm going to talk about why that kind of breaks the rules of the game on 2 fronts. It's good early game, especially against space aggro decks. If you didn't have your turn 1 Phoenix squad, but you have Blue Leader, oftentimes you play Blue Leader, it kills a unit, it survives. Now it either has to eat up a ping, eat up a Tarkin town, or it gets to gobble up 2 units. Really good to do. But also, if you're not playing a space deck, it's still relevant. Played a Piet red deck where I stuck my, turn 1 play, my 2/4, my Yaddle, my Mina, my Gungi. They flipped Piet on 5 resources, and yes, they got to develop their first 5-drop or their first 6-drop, but I Blue Leadered, and then I ran in with Gungi, so we took care of Piet efficiently with only 5 mana. We actually had 2 units left over on the board, so we had 2 ground units. They had a space unit. Eventually, we get a flip Yoda to get that, 1 unit back, and then we can start playing removal and playing to the ground and trying to outrace him, and that's effectively what I did. So Blue Leader, really strong against space decks, pretty strong against ground decks, really good in the mirror because it can kill a Typho and survive. So it effectively trades, at -1 mana resource into a Typho, but then they have to use something else to take it out. So it's usually mana efficient for us to do that. Next up is 2 Eager Escort Fighters. Now, I know a lot of people side deck all of these. I really like these main deck because, again, I have PTSD from space aggro decks. But specifically why Eager Escorts are good is for cards like Millennium Falcon and Victor Leader, where Blue Leader can't kill those units because they have 4 health. That's where Eager Escort comes in. And typically those units are kill on sight, and it is worth trading 1 for 1. It's good to treat these like removal spells. Victor Leader pumps up a whole board, so the turn it comes out, oftentimes it's kind of like a +3 or +4 damage. So if we can just get rid of it, it's not the best, but it is something that's just beneficial to us. Millennium Falcons, yellow heroes kind of ace in the hole sometimes. 3 damage from hand that can keep recurring is not something to sneeze at. So oftentimes they'll play Millennium Falcon thinking they're safe. You just Eager Escort it, and then they're kind of screwed because they were like, oh, well, that was, the way I was going to get lethal at you. So now I have to slow down. I don't have any more burst damage from hand. my reach goes down a little bit. Eager Escort, I'm not going to pretend like it's the best card in the deck. It is a pretty good card. I do like having the availability of it main deck so that your opponent has to respect it. And it's a little bit of a mind game that you can have. Now, I do have to apologize for these next two cards. A friend of mine has my other two cards because at the PQ that I was at, I did get deck checked. These were foiled. They were pretty bad. So I had to get Judge Proxies. I will put on screen the correct card. But these are Red Squadron X-Wings. Win play, deal 2 damage to self, draw a card. They're a 3/4. Effectively, they're 3/2 draw cards, but they can be 3/4s if needed. These are okay in the space matchup, but what I really like them and why I chose these, you still get a draw card, so you get to dig a little deep in your deck to hopefully find an answer. They're better into mid-range and control decks than like something like a Concord Dawn Interceptors. Because of the draw card, it's a 3/2. It still can pose a little bit of damage in the control matchup. It can be a sacrificial card to a Power of the Dark Side. I did find them okay. However, these are probably the first 2 cards to go, and I would probably replace them with a Rex, which is nowhere in the deck, not even in the sideboard right now. I had it earlier on. I did take it out recently, but these will probably become Rexes. I didn't really like them. I cast them a few times, but they never really felt that impactful. Next up, like any good deck, should have some amount of interaction. And what interaction we have in Blue-Green Hero is obviously hard removal. We run 2 Vanquishes. Why? 5 resources, defeat any non-leader unit that doesn't have, a prevent clause on it. I like these because sometimes you see a card like a Ruthless Raider that attempts to dodge almost all relevant removal, and this is just an answer to it. Technically, it's mana efficient, but oftentimes you play Vanquish, you don't really have the mana to play an extra card. Wasting their whole turn to kind of stalemate, let's go to the next turn, let's regroup. Better for us because we're a late game deck. It's not my favorite card, but it is just nice to have 2 of as just 2 answers, silver bullets to any units they play. But the actual, if that was a silver bullet, the golden bullet is Rivals Fall. This deck, you can have some issues. If you have a souped up leader, if you're going against an 8 booty leader, a big leader, Chancellor Palpatine, Padme, Cad Bane sometimes, it can be pretty difficult to kind of efficiently remove with your creatures. We play 2 of Rivals Falls. You go up against the Kylo deck, Rivals Fall is like your best answer to it. They play their whole turn, souping them up, putting a bunch of upgrades on them. Your Rivals Fall them, you've held it in hand the whole time, and now they can't do anything. So that's why I really like Rivals Fall. It can kill any unit that, once again, doesn't have a restriction on it. Sometimes the play line with this is you Rivals Fall their leader, right? They flip their leader out, Rivals Fall it, tap Yoda, flip Yoda, kill whatever unit they played that turn. So you effectively killed their leader, killed a unit, developed your own unit. So you went +3 on units to the board. You get a little bit of Restore 2. You get a 4/9, pretty resilient unit. So I like Rivals Fall. I run 2. There was a time I ran 3. 3 seems like a little too much. 2 seems like the right number. So now the next question is, for the other 2 removal spells, are you running Takedown or Fell the Dragons? And it's a good question. I'm running Fell the Dragons. The reason why I'm running Fell the Dragons is specifically because I feel like early on, you don't really want to be, playing a 4-cost takedown, do nothing. That's a little too early. Even Vanquish, you really don't want to play on 5 too much. You'd rather play something like a blue leader. And I've been losing a lot of games recently when I was running takedown because, you get to the late game, your opponent drops a Bo-Katan or a Crate Dragon or something else, and you're stuck with a takedown in your hand that's a useless card. And Fell the Dragon could actually take care of it. So I think Fells have been better for me. There was a time where I was counting, okay, would Takedown have been better in this game or Fells? The majority of the time, and I would say, maybe a stark majority of my games, Fell the Dragon has felt really good, really impactful. You keep it in hand, they drop their big unit, you fell it, play a 3 or a 4 drop behind it, you developed your board, you killed all of their mana with, 4 resources. Something I really like to do. I prefer Fells over Takedown, and I think I would still prefer Fells over Takedown. Even though Takedown can hit leaders, I still think Fells the way to go. And if you think about it, I'm actually glad I have this on top. Blue leader is kind of like a Takedown, right? It can deal 5 damage to a ground unit. It can't do it to a space unit, but to a ground unit, it can deal 5 damage to it. Not through a shield. There is some differences, but a lot of times you get to leave a unit behind where Takedown, you don't. So for 1 extra resource, you get to deal 5 damage and keep a unit behind. So not a big fan of Takedown in this deck. Much prefer Fell the Dragon. Lastly, we're ramping. We're surviving. We're sentineling. What are we doing all this to? What are we removing stuff for? What are we putting Sentinels for? What are we ramping to? Well, that's obviously our bombs. And what's interesting about this deck, and you know, a lot of green hero decks now, well, our earliest bomb that can come out is on 5 resources. And in this deck specifically, it can come out as early as turn 2. And that's Queen Amidala. Queen Amidala is a 5-cost 5/3 unit with the Wind Plate ability, create 2 spy tokens, which are also the official trait, because she has this clause here that says, if damage would be dealt to this unit, you may sacrifice another unit that shares a trait with her, and then effectively you negate that damage. So she's designed, you play this out, you can treat your spies like shield tokens. So if they don't have any kind of hard removal for her, these are just shield tokens, and they're pretty dang good ones. And if you have other cards like Mina, or if you have other cards like Mina, you know, you can sack a Mina to protect Amidala. So she's really strong, really sticky, really hard to remove. But what she's really, really good for, not just in like mid-range matchups where you just, okay, I'm going to play a big unit. Now I've got a big board. What are you going to do about it? She's really good at refilling your board post like a super laser blast. Once you play an Amidala after a super laser blast, well, now you're threatening 9 damage again. So with one card, you've kind of built a threatening board that they're going to have to take care of. And they can't do it efficiently. They can't do Power of the Dark Side. If they use like a 5-mana thing to get rid of just the queen, you have 2 spies left over that can deal 4 damage every turn. So it feels really, really strong to play a queen after a super laser blast. We run 3. She's really strong. She's really good elsewhere. If you get super lucky and your opponent kills your turn 1 play, and then you have like You're My Only Hope, Queen Amidala, so a turn 2 queen, you get a 5/3 and 2 0/2 raid 2s. It's almost game over right there. It's just, you can't come back from it. Currently, Han 2s are running her as like a 4-drop, as a 5/1 with 2 spies. And that's really strong. So imagine getting the 5/3 a whole turn earlier. Really powerful, really good card. And it's really funny that we get a bomb as early as 5 resources. That's just insane. Our next bomb is Kelleran Beck. And Kelleran Beck, he's a 7/7 Jedi with the Wind Plate ability. Search the top 7 cards of your deck, look for a card, any card, doesn't have to be hero, and it comes out at 3 less. So you can play a 3-drop for free, a 2-drop for free, or even like a Queen Amidala for only 2 resources. And those are all really, really strong things to do. You get 10 resources worth of cards for only 7 resources. Once again, in this deck, he can come out as early as 5 resources because of You're My Only Hope. And if you go Kelleran Beck into like Village Protectors on 5 resources, even like Han 2 is like, okay, well, what am I going to do to that? I can't really play anything. And oftentimes you'll see them like ECL out a Poe or something, or a Wrecker to get rid of your Village Protectors, but you still have a 7/7 left behind. So you can like kill the Wrecker. They've wasted their ECL. Effectively, you spent like, and effectively what they did is they've like, okay, I took 5 HP from my base because of the base penalty to kill a Village Protectors, and then you Kelleran Becked into it. And then eventually, you know, in a turn or 2, you get to flip your Yoda to once again catch up on the board. They've wasted their ECL, so they have 0 good answers to Yoda, and it's over right there. So Kelleran Beck, super strong, stupid strong. Once again, comes out after a super laser blast to refill a board. One of the dumbest plays you can do that you can see, like dumb in a good way, is you go home 1, Kelleran Beck, Queen Amidala. For 1 resource, you bring out 5 units with like total power of what, like 23, and technically it's like restore 6. Just crazy stuff that you can do. Really like Queen Amidala, really like Kelleran Beck. I do only run 2 Kellerans because we're running out of space in the deck, but spoiler alert, there is 1 in the sideboard. No surprise here, 3 Luke Skywalkers. 7 cost 6/7, restore 3. When played, give an enemy unit -3/-3 for this phase. If a friendly unit was defeated this phase, give that enemy unit -6/-6 instead. So he's kind of got like a little bit of an ambush, but better because he has 6 attacks. So you think of it as an ambush if a unit died, which oftentimes we do get to set up pretty easily. But his ambush is even better than that. Not only is it like a remote ambush, but it can hit space units. So it's insane. The other thing about Luke is if he sticks and he attacks, the restore 3 is effectively like a 9 damage swing because it heals 3 from your base and deals 6 to theirs. So a lot of times your opponents cannot let him swing. Against yellow decks, the only thing that they can really do to him is waylay him. Well, guess what? He's coming back out. It's like waylaying an ambush unit. Why are you doing that? It's not the best. So if your opponent waylays your Luke, you're like, okay, he's coming back. Like, it's not going to be pretty. So Luke, I mean, I think that was obvious, pretty strong. Another obvious card, 2 home ones. We already talked about Kellerin Becking from a home one. 8 cost 7/7, restore 2. Give all your other units, not just heroism units, restore 1. And when played, you get a look through your discard pile for a heroism unit. Play it for 3 less. So oftentimes, home 1 is actually what dictates when we stop resourcing. Your ideal play is to go home 1 into either Luke or Kellerin. So if you play home 1 into Luke or Kellerin, that's a total of 15 resources worth of stuff, but at a 3 resource discount. So that's 12 resources. Oftentimes, I will stop resourcing at 12 resources. The other breakpoint for resources that you can think about is 14, because that's the home 1, Kellerin Beck, Queen Amidala trifecta, which is almost like a Exodia GG I win. But oftentimes I stop resourcing at 12 because of home 1 into Kellerin or Luke. That's kind of good enough to win. If you can't win off that, something bad really happened, or you played something really wrong. Home 1s are not just good at refilling your board after Super Laser Blast, they're also kind of good into like mid-range matches or even aggro matches that you've managed to control pretty well. There were times where I had like 27, 28 damage on my base. You play home 1, you get a Sentinel unit out, you have 1 or 2 units that are already ready to attack, and next thing your opponent knows, within 2 turns, you've healed like 8 or 9 from your base. They've swung at it, but they're like, where did all the damage go? What happened to it? Well, home 1 restored it all. Pretty good. Not just good in like control matches, sometimes good in mid-range matches as well. And lastly, my favorite card in the deck, because when I cast it, I get to look my opponent in the eye and say, Big Mama is in the house. Bo-Katan, 8/8, 4/9. When played, give every enemy unit -3/-3 for this phase. And at any time, not just the phase she's played, when an enemy unit is defeated, you may get an experience token and put it on any unit you want, including your leader, which is a big thing. Sometimes what you do is you set up the Bo-Katan turn, and your opponent is like looking at it, but the only thing that they can do about it is like trade into your units, which is kind of what you want to do anyway. And that's fine. So you set up the board, you play Bo-Katan, it kills the entire board, you gobble up 3 or 4 experience tokens, you spread them out, you stack them up, whatever you think is the correct thing to do. You spread them out if you're playing control. You stack them up if your opponent has no way to like bounce or upgrade hate. Typically, I like to put these on Yoda because he's so resilient in a lot of matches. And I mean, there was one time where I was like playing against the Vader who had 9 units on board. You Bo-Katan, Yoda gobbled up like 9 tokens, and I was like, okay, Yoda, 13 to base, restore 2. And he was like, yep, that's game right there, buddy. Bo-Katan also is really good into Green Hero. We've got, Queen Amidala right here, right? Well, Queen Amidala, if your opponent plays her on like 7 or 8 resources, they don't know the matchup that well, because if they play Queen and you can go Bo-Katan into Queen, Bo-Katan is an 11/11 and you spent 5 resources to give me that 11/11. It's crazy. It shuts down Queens. It shuts down Village Protectors. And the other thing about Bo-Katan is she's not just good when you're behind. Sometimes, like I've played it, if my opponent had like a 3/4 and like a 6/6, and I played Bo-Katan because it saved me 6 damage, and now I have an 8/8 on board. So not only did it, kind of restore 6, but also it's restore 6 with Big Mama 8/8. What are you going to do to that? Not much. Can't get around her. Bo-Katan, extremely good. We run 3. Oftentimes, you look at the board, you have Bo-Katan in your hand. If you're not immediately dead when you play her, and then the rest kind of just shakes out well for you. And the last card in the deck is a card that everybody knows. It's the reason why Yoda's the best blue-green hero leader and not any other leader. It's You're My Only Hope, which is a 3-cost heroism event that says, look at the top card of your deck. You may play it for 5 less. And if your base has 5 health or less, you may play that card for free instead. So why is this good with Yoda? Well, Yoda says you get to look at the top card of your deck and also put any card in your hand, either on top or bottom. So it's very easy to manipulate the top of our deck with a card we want to pull with this and cheat it out for 2 resources. Yoda's the only heroism unit that can do that reliably, and that's why we like it. That's why we play this. Getting a Queen on turn 2 is really strong. Getting Luke or Kellerin on 5 resources is really strong. One of the best plays you can do, actually, is go, You're My Only Hope, Bo-Katan on 7. You don't get to scry the top for the deploy Yoda, kill a card, because you had to do that to get Bo-Katan out with your My Only Hope. But if you get lucky and you Bo-Katan'd and then also flipped Yoda and killed something, not only did Yoda also maybe kill something with his attack, like maybe you went, -3, -4 opponent units, and you developed 2 very strong units. So, I mean, you can flip the board like crazy amounts with your My Only Hope with Bo-Katan on 7, with Kelleran Beck and Luke on 5, or Queen Amidala on 3 resources. Your My Only Hope is so strong in the deck. I really like it. And it's also a good reason and a good argument for running Rex in the deck at 6, because it gives you like another turn 4 play to hit other than Resupply Carrier that's very impactful for the board. A 7/7 on 4 resources. If you come from Hearthstone, you know the joke. 4 cost 7/7 was a big deal. 4 cost 7/7 with Sentinel is also a pretty big deal. So you're My Only Hope. Last card in the deck. Very strong card. That is the entirety of the main 60 of the deck. But we still have an extra 10 cards for the sideboard. I kind of have an unconventional sideboard, I'd say, compared to most people. Most people do not have the main cards that I run. And we're going to start off with Confiscate, which, that is a card that a lot of Yodas are running. It's for pilot leaders. It's for decks like Gar Saxon, that they're running like a couple strong upgrades. Confiscate's very good. Your opponent flips their Boba Fett pilot onto a unit. You already wasted all your resources, but you have 1 up. Confiscate. Boom. Kind of healed 5, got rid of their leader. Pretty good, pretty strong. Other thing about Confiscate that could be good post-board against control specifically, a lot of times they'll run a 1 of Relentless with Palpatine's Return. Relentless says basically that you get to nullify the first event your opponent plays each turn. Well, for 1 resource, we can fizzle the effect of Relentless and then play the removal behind it. And that's really strong. That's really good. It doesn't shut us down, and it gives us an answer to Relentless pretty efficiently. I like Confiscates a lot in the deck. I know Wu is main decking them. I don't like to main deck Confiscates, specifically because sometimes you do have to blind flip Yoda, and having 1-drops in your deck effectively are like blanks into blind flipping Yodas. At worst, if we only are running lowest cost as a 2-resource card and they have a 2-resource unit, you know that you're at least hitting something with the blind flip. Blind flipping is not something you always want to do. You really want to try to avoid it if you can, but that's why I don't main deck Confiscates, is specifically because sometimes you have to blind flip Yoda. So, reducing the amount of times that you have a 1 cost in your deck kind of helps with that. The next card in my sideboard is Concord Dawn Interceptors. This might be a blast from the past. 3 cost, 1/4 unit with Sentinel, and this unit gets +2 attack while defending. Reason why I run this, I think we all know the answer by now. I hate space aggro decks. The only thing you have to worry about with Concord Dawn Interceptors is the Capture Shuttle, because this does have 3 cost, which means if you play this ignorantly as your first action on the first turn, your opponent's just going to play Capture Shuttle, and then you're going to be sad, and you don't want to be sad. So play around Capture Shuttle, but if you do, and you drop this bad boy, it can effectively shut down a whole turn because it can kill almost any turn 1 play that your opponent plays. If it gobbles up the entirety of the first turn, that's excellent, something you really want to do. But sometimes it can just, save that 4 or 5 damage from your opponent because they don't want to trade into this. They actually won me a couple games into a Queen Amidala space aggro deck. I really like Concord Dawn Interceptors. I probably will not take those out of the deck. The next card is a 1 of Eager Escort Fighter. This pumps us up to 3 against space aggro. If we have to see Millennium Falcons, if we have to see Victor Leaders, I would rather have this in my back pocket as another thing to see it to get rid of it. 3 of Eagers might be a little too much. I personally, again, PTSD, space aggro, I like them. The other thing, and I get laughed at a lot, I've been told by my coach Josh Everly, the people I've tested against, that they've almost just walked away whenever they saw this card come out. That is Nema Outpost Constables. 4 cost 2/6 Sentinel unit. Pretty normal as it gets. The reason why I like this card, it's another 4 cost Sentinel unit, but it has 6 health, which I've found very important. At times, your opponent is going to play something like a Forlom, or something like Queen Amidala, or something like Blue Leader. Nema Outpost Guard insulates you from all of those. It gives you, 2 things that they have to do. If they Forlom into this, Yes, it doesn't kill the 4-LOM like a Typho would, but this takes the ping, this takes the 4 damage, this deals 2 damage back, and still they're going to have to run something into it to kill it. So it does effectively take something out. That's why I like Nema Outpost Constables. Another reason that I tried to explain to my coach Josh, I don't think he believes me, but you play this the turn before Queen Amidala comes out. So if they play Queen Amidala, what you do is you kill a spy, and now they have Queen at 5-3 and a spy at 0-2. They have to trade the spy into this, and then they have to trade Queen Amidala into this. Queen is then left as a 5-1 with no spies, and she didn't get to deal any damage to base. And so any turn 1 play, any unit that you have can take out the Queen efficiently. That's why I like Nema Outpost guards. They're really strong. I think they're actually pretty slept on, and I've played them and they have been a pain. Also, notably, in the control matchup specifically, it dodges fells and it dodges takedowns. So the Nema Outpost Constables actually have to take up a more higher coveted, higher tier form of removal if they want to get rid of them. So they're kind of Power of the Dark Side fodder, but they can keep swinging. So maybe they get entrenched. Maybe they get condemned. If they do, you're kind of happy about that. I really like them. I probably wouldn't take these out either. These come in a lot because even into like Han2 ECL matches, all you're trying to do is play Sentinels up the curve. Well, if you're playing Sentinels up the curve, 2 more, kind of healthy Sentinels will get you there. Next up, you're gonna probably be sick and tired of hearing from this. 2 Hyperspace Disasters. Obviously for space aggro decks. They're also pretty good into like the Piet decks. This won me a game against Piet because they had like Ruthless Raider, Devastator. And I said, okay, Hyperspace Disaster, lost everything. I think then at that point, I like flipped Yoda because they got it with Piet. So I flipped Yoda. I killed like their, I think, Invisible Hand. And then I Yoda'd into it like an HK-47. So I killed 5 units, developed my own unit, restored 2, and then I could also restore the next turn while dealing 4. Completely flipped the game, won me that game. Hyperspace Disaster, really good against space aggro decks, really good against Piet. And lastly, I run the 3rd Kellerin Beck. Kellerin Beck's strong, really good in any kind of value game, really good into control. We keep him in the sideboard because there's no room in the main deck. The last question you might be asking is, where's the 3rd home 1? I couldn't find my 3rd home 1. That's the only reason it's not in the deck. So other than that, that's the sideboard. That's the main deck. Next thing we're going to talk about are matchups and sideboarding into each of the prevalent matchups that you might see. First up is the Han2 ECL game plan. This revolves essentially around 3 pressure points. The first is you want to have an answer to Sabine's Masterpiece. Ideally, that's Eager Escort Fighter or Blue Leader. Both effectively trade. You can't really get around that, but Sabine's Masterpiece does get out of hand, especially if they have a green unit on board because it can become a 4-4. And then a 5-5. And now it's outside of, easy removal range besides like a Fell the Dragon. So not something you really want to do. You really want to try and have a clean answer to it the turn that they play it. I've seen Sabine's Masterpiece swing for 16 personally. I've seen it happen to a bunch of good players. I've seen it happen to me. The other pressure point that's really important, Sentinels. You really want to be playing Sentinels up the curve. Either your Village Protectors, your Captain Typhos, your Obi-Wan Kenobis. You really want to have ground Sentinels up the curve because that's where a lot of the danger comes from. Oftentimes, your opponent will attempt to pivot to space. Often, if we can keep the ground secure, that's where our restore units are, that's where our Yoda will live, that's where our Luke will live, and we might be able to claw back. And then maybe Bo-Katan comes out later on and can clean it up in game 1. One really key pressure point that you need to keep in mind. When you go to flip Yoda, always, 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 always have a ground Sentinel to prevent them from just ECLing Wrecker into it. Oftentimes, I've actually let damage happen to my base so that way they don't have enough attacks to get through the Village Protectors or the Typho without using the ECL. But if they use the ECL to get through the Sentinel, they're not ECLing Yoda. And Yoda gets to clean up the Wrecker and restore 2 and take 4 damage somewhere else. So you need to have a Sentinel unit before you flip your Yoda. That is a big, big thing, unless they've used the ECL. If they've already used the ECL, then pretty much you're good to flip, but you still always want to try to flip behind the Sentinel. It's really hard to lose if they have to go through a Sentinel to get to your Yoda because he can trade efficiently. And he also gets to restore 4 instead of, 0 sometimes. Don't let them ECL Wrecker into your Yoda and survive. That's not a way that you win games. And lastly, especially post sideboard, because a lot of these are in the sideboard, but sometimes they're in the main deck. You want to hold on to your ramp cards until like the 5 resource turn. You don't want them to effectively play resupply and then a Han 2 ECL goes, oh, well, you resupplied on 3? I'm going to cheat out Sham. So now I've got this 5-2 and I ramped. So they got to play a 5-2. We had to play just 1 Steak and resupply. Not conducive to winning. You basically get blown out anytime you do it. But if you hold this till the 5 resource turn, at that point, they're not really wanting to play Shams. And if they do play Shams, you pretty much have a way to get around them. If it's a Yoda flip, if it's a Yoda attack, if it's a Typho, they don't really get ahead if you wait till they flip and then you play resupply. Hold on to resupply till like the 5 turn. Resupply carrier is also really strong to keep here because you play it naturally on 6 anyway, and they're not playing Sham to catch up to you then. So those are the 3 pressure points. Sabine's Masterpiece, keep a Sentinel out, especially when you flip Yoda, and hold on to resupply if they try and sham you. That way, they can't actually get the ramp from Sham, and it's not a blowout. That's the key to Han 2. And if we're talking about the sideboard into Han 2, the way that I would sideboard is I would take out 2 Spark of Hopes, because if we're holding on to our ramp, we have longer to see our ramp. These aren't that necessary, and there's other cards that I would prefer to put in. Other 2 cards I would take out is I would take out 2 of the Bo-Katans. Your opponent still needs to respect her because you still have 1. Oftentimes, it actually doesn't come down to Bo-Katan in these matchups. And instead, you know, if we're talking about our game plan, you might be able to predict what we are going to put in for these 4 cards. We're going to put in 1 Eager Escort Fighter because it helps with the pressure point of getting rid of Sabine's Masterpiece. We're going to put in 2 of the Nema Outpost Constables because those are ground sentinels that we can hide our Yoda behind. And we're going to kind of replace one of the Bo-Katans with a Kelleran Beck. He's still a bomb, but he comes out 2 turns earlier when effectively that's like the turning point in the game. Bo-Katan is just a hair too late. The next matchup is Han 1 Yellow, and this matchup actually feels pretty strong for us. The key pressure points are the following. 1, try to have an answer to Han. Pretty obvious, but not always the easiest thing to do. Pretty much our best, cleanest answer is to You're My Only Hope, like a Luke that's already like had a friendly unit die to kill him. That's like the best way. If we've out-ramped him once, you can kind of dirtle and hold on to a rival's fall, but that's also not necessarily like the best thing to do. I found something that's really strong is like, yeah, they're going to get 1 like 7 cost out for cheap, but then you kind of just hit their Han, take him back, you know, blue leader him, put a Sentinel out that he has to run into that you can start trading with. Like, that's kind of the answers that I've found work best for Hans. It's not great. It's not ideal. So besides, you know, getting something out with You're My Only Hope, there's not much that you can do there. However, blue leaders, pretty great early in the game. Second pressure point, do not play into Bodhi Rook. We've talked constantly about how resupply is the game plan. Resupply is the game plan. Well, Bodhi Rook, turn 1 or turn 2, can come out, snipe your resupply, and that's not what we want to happen because effectively, you got greedy, you held on to a card that essentially was a discard and gave your opponent value. Early in the game, I actually would recommend resourcing all your events. None of them are really needed. You're My Only Hope is the one that hurts the most in this matchup. And maybe you risk keeping it. I probably wouldn't because you don't want to play into the Bodhi Rook. Why would you give your opponent value for free? It's something that's coming. I know the Han 1 Yellow I played against had 2 Bodhi Rook in the sideboard and none in the main deck. So I actually could hold on to resupply turn 1. I could hold on to You're My Only Hope in game 1. But game 2, I had to play about Bodhi Rook. So do not let Bodhi Rook get your resupply turn 1. Do not let that happen. Blue leaders are also pretty great in this matchup because they kill a lot of the, you know, 4 cost units that Han likes to play. They like to play Kira. They like to play Ahsoka. Well, okay, they play that. They disrupt your hand a bit, and then you can blue leader them, and blue leader survives. Oftentimes, Kira, if you have a blue leader or a Luke in hand, they kind of have to call a blue leader to try and time walk you, but sometimes you have an extra card that you can play and still, you know, use your resources. Blue leader's super good in this matchup. If you have resupply carriers, you kind of want to hide them on top of your deck with Yoda's ability. This goes back to Kira. If your opponent is trying to use Kira to disrupt our hand, we're already getting rid of our resupplies. We can't let them be hitting our resupply carriers too. And oftentimes opponents don't think of resupply carrier as a top target to hit. Typically the card that comes to mind is loot, or it's a blue leader if they see it in your hand. It is almost never ever resupply carrier. So what you want to do, if you can sniff out the Kira, get rid of one of your units on the ground, so that way you can hide the resupply carrier on top of your deck, so that way they don't call it. If they call your bluff and they call it anyway, you did your best, but you want to try and hide your resupply carrier, or sometimes maybe even your blue leader if you can. So hiding cards is a top priority in the Han matchup to play around Kira. And when it comes to like your Yoda flip, which is a crucial point, something that I've found that's been really helpful is don't just ignorantly swing Yoda into Han if he's a 4/6 still and you have no damage on him because you're like, oh, I'll clean him up next turn. Absolutely do not want to do that because of the break. If you swing Yoda into Han without a Sentinel on the ground, and even with a Sentinel on the ground because of Depa, you open yourself up to giving your opponent like a free value trade, which we don't want to do. Yoda is like one of the toughest units for Hans to get rid of. So we want to have Yoda swing for like 1 or 2 or 3 times. If you get 1 or 2 swings with Yoda, you're pretty much winning the game because it's like effectively like 12 health worth of change. But the reason why you don't want to swing into Han leader is specifically the Han unit and also Depa like we talked about. Reason being, you hit Han, Yoda has 5 health left. That means that Han unit can come in, deal 6 damage to Yoda, and then he takes no damage back. That's pretty bad for us. Depa deals exactly 5 damage, which kills Yoda, and she survives, and she goes through Sentinels. So you really got to try and make the read. If they're on 7 resources, can't let them get a free kill on your Yoda. You just can't do it. It's better, in my opinion, to go 8 base, restore 4, opposed to going 4, restore 2 into Han. That's my opinion. It's really worked out for me. That's what I would do. The next card that you really got to worry out for is Emphas Nest. Specifically because Emphas can bounce like all of our Sentinels. She has Saboteur. She's a pain in the neck. Every time I've lost to Han 1 yellow, it's specifically because of Emphas Nest being a pain in my ass. So do not let Emphas Nest bounce all your stuff. Have a plan for Emphas. Make sure you don't let Yoda die. Get rid of your resupplies. Don't get Bodhi Rook and hide your resupply carriers. That's the way out. When we're talking about sideboarding into the Han 1 matchup, I take out 2 Rivals Falls because, they are good into Han, but we have other ways to more efficiently get rid of him. It's not the best card, especially because you can't hold it for Han because of Bodhi. Second card is Spark of Hopes. Once again, if we're already getting rid of our resupplies, which is a better card than Spark of Hopes, let's get rid of our sparks for something that is a little bit more impactful for the rest of the game. We bring in 1 Eager Escort Fighter specifically for the Millennium Falcons. We bring in 2 Nema Outpost Constables because Sentinels are good. We don't want to get damage on our base. We need to put Sentinels out. 2/6. Pretty good. It can survive, I think, almost any of the big swings. It gets bounced by Emphas, gets killed by Han. Other than that, it can pretty much stack up to anything Han wants to throw at it. And lastly, we bring in the 3rd Kellerin because we can maybe get it out with a You're My Only Hope, but sometimes on 7 resources, you just want to build the biggest board you can, and Kellerin helps with that. He also can prevent an Emphas Nest being played because if they play Emphas, you claim kill it with Kellerin. If they played the Han unit, you kill it with Kellerin and Kellerin lives. So Kellerin's just a big boy and he's really strong. He's really what we want to be doing. So those are the 4 cards we bring in. Those are the 4 cards that I suggest we take out. Next up, a matchup that I do feel pretty strong into is Cad Bane Tarkin Town. What you want to do into Cad is hard maul for Gungi turn 1. Because the 5 health is the crucial thing that we need to start the game with. Gungi turn 1 opposed to any other turn 1 play are massive differences on how the game plays out. The 5 health prevents a ping into a Tarkin Town because he'll still be alive with a 2/1. And if they waste that and Gungi still gets to defeat a unit as his first action on the next turn, we're pretty happy with that because typically we don't get any value out of our turn 1 play. At least we got something out of it this time. Oftentimes, if they have units out and they just pinged him, they're not going to waste their Tarkin Town on him. So what you'd want to do ideally on the follow-up turn with Gungi is to swing at a 2-attack unit, not a 3-attack unit. Reason being there is if you swing into a 3-attack unit, well, he's already been pinged once. You hit a 3-attack unit, so now if he's the only unit on the board, if that was your first action, they're just going to play an Underworld unit if they're smart, ping the Gungi, and now they got rid of the Gungi for free, and they still have Tarkin Town. And you don't want to do that. You kind of want to make them have to start making the decisions. So if you hit a 2-attack unit, he has 2 HP remaining. If he gets pinged, he has 1 health remaining. but you get to develop a second unit. So now you get to start spreading that damage out. And where Cad Bane really wants to live is you having one unit that you have to like kind of force the ping onto. So that way he kind of always knows he gets to trade up. And we take him out of that territory, he becomes a lot weaker. Like a lot weaker. And that's what we want to do. So hard mulliganing, Gungi, super strong into Cad Bane. The other thing that's really good into Cad Bane is double ramping. There are times where you can actually easily flip your unit out before Cad Bane flips. And if Yoda comes out before Cad Bane, we've killed something, got ahead on board. We have a 4/9 restore 2 that's really hard for him to deal with. If he hasn't put us in check with a lot of damage, well, it's almost game over right there because he can't really do much, and we have Sentinels to kind of back him up with. So I really like double ramping. I really like Gungi. The other thing that you can try and do often, because you're trading into your units, so typically you have a lot of damage on your units that you can kind of get rid of. And if Cad Bane tries to ping you and you get rid of one of your units, you can set up a You're My Only Hope into like a big play. But what you really have to worry about is the Bazine and the Garindin. It's big in this matchup. Always try and play around it. You can sometimes hide your good cards on top of your deck so they don't get Bazined or Garindin. You know, hiding a Luke on top of your deck if you suspect a Bazine. If you think that like Cad Bane's about to deploy because they play Garindin as plot cards, you want to put a Luke on top of your deck before Garindin deploys. But also worry that, you know, they might call like You're My Only Hope if they suspect that you're trying to like You're My Only Hope whatever Cad Bane deploys. Be careful with this. This is something that can kind of get you screwed. If you can, do it. If you can't, you know, don't. The other thing that you need to watch out for in Cad Bane specifically is the McClunky plays. McClunky in this game can easily do 4 damage or 5 damage depending on if Cad Bane is deployed or not. And you do not want to play into it. So in the Cad Bane Tarkentown game that you're going to see later on, you might see some plays that are like really weird. You're like, why the hell are you trading the way that you're doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? It's really bizarre. Well, if Cad Bane has one open resource and one card in hand, he can always McClunky you to deal 4 or 5 damage and then replay that unit. And if it's like a Bazine or a Garindin, it's, you know, maybe kill 2 units, kill a big unit, and then get a discard like the next best follow-up. So really worry about McClunky, really worry about discard, but mitigate that with double ramp and starting out with Gungi. That's my advice for your initial stuff into Cad Bane. But also, always watch out for Zuckuss. He's got Saboteur, so he gets to go through our Sentinels. And sometimes he might even try and kill like a Village Protectors just so that it's one action. So be careful about Zuckuss Saboteur. Do not let them 4-lom Zuckuss you. If 4-lom's on the board, he's enemy number 1. Get him out of the game. So let's talk about post-sideboard. What I do is I get rid of the Eager Escort Fighters. Yes, there are some 4 health units that Cad Bane plays, but 1 HP is not something we want to be messing around with. So I particularly don't like Eager Escort Fighters. I also get rid of 1 of the Bo-Katans. So we still have 2. You still have to really highly respect it, and we still get the option to Bo-Katan us out. Oftentimes, we don't always get there. What we bring in, surprise, surprise, the Nema Outpost Constables and a Kelleran Beck. Big boy, help spread damage out with whatever he deploys. 2/6 can survive a 4-lom attack, which then you can start building the board to spread out the pings more. 2 attack isn't great, but the 6 health is kind of where it's at. It's just another Sentinel to kind of break it up. I really like Nema Outpost Constables because of the 6 health. You can, you know, use him as a ping soak for 1, 2, or even 3 pings if he survives long enough for some reason. So that's why I like it. Name of the game, make Cad Bane's pings irrelevant. And then, you know, get your ramp out. Zuckuss is number 1, 4-lom's number 2. And post-sideboard, one thing you have to worry about mostly is a sneak attack Devastator for 13 straight to the dome. Can't let that happen to you. If they have all their resources open, you kind of need to hold on to some form of removal or even like a Bright Hope to kind of Sentinel up. So that way they can't 13 you right to the dome. That's one way that you're like, oh, I'm ahead. I got some life. I can't get killed in one action. And then they go, all right, sneak attack Devastator, 4 to the dome. Here comes 9 attack. You don't want that to happen to you. So be aware of that post sideboard.
gonna slow us down. We'll be gone and won't look back. Won't need no direction home, so say goodbye, we're done with that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Drive by the city lights, we're just enjoying the ride. We're gonna drive all night, making it last till the morning light. Yeah, we're gonna drive all night till we run out of road, out of gas, out of cash. Yeah, we feel alright. We're gonna drive all night till we run out of road, out of cash, out of gas. Yeah, it feels alright. If you don't live fast, then you die. Yeah, we might not last, but we're trying. We're gonna drive all night, making it last till the morning light. Yeah, we're gonna drive all night till we run out of road, out of cash, out of gas. Making it last till the morning light. Yeah, we're gonna drive all night till we run out of road, out of cash, out of gas. When we feel alright.
like a razor blade. I'm a